welcome everybody. And let me guess that some of you are familiar with the concept of quality assurance as a traffic cop, and that's probably not in the way that you learned that the policeman is your friend. This is kind of a negative that a lot of QA groups are perceived as enforcing compliance. A lot of that compliance is with superficialities like formats of documents or following procedures. Often those procedures are somewhat burdensome, high overhead, somewhat onerous, and that frankly, the traffic cop QA is often perceived as an obstacle to progress and interfering with delivery that people are being held accountable for, and not surprisingly, often encounters a lot of resistance, and I would suggest that that resistance is frequently understandable. I sympathize, I understand that. So we're going to test that what I call proactive quality assurance, or software quality assurance, is an alternative that I think you'll find beneficial. So what we want to do is we want to start by distinguishing some terms: system versus software quality, system versus software quality assurance, system versus software quality control. So these terms are used, I'll say, somewhat interchangeably and mistakenly, and so we want to elaborate on them. I want to make you somewhat aware of conventional perspectives on software quality assurance, especially as articulated in some prominent standards. And then, if it's not abundantly clear, elaborate a little bit on why the traditional or conventional approaches to software quality assurance are so often resisted, so often ignored, and so often fail. And then I want to describe proactive software quality assurance, and specifically the 6 functions that proactive software quality assurance performs, and help you realize that when involved parties understand and find that the methods are helpful, that they are much more likely to willingly participate and follow and use the suggested quality assurance approaches. And proactive software quality assurance is the key to reducing resistance and to, frankly, to get rid of that traffic cop mentality on both sides, the QA and the victims, if you will. And that do all this and abide by it because, in fact, it helps the organization deliver higher quality software quicker and cheaper. It's not an either or. And I think that in a lot of organizations that's certainly not their experience with QA. So the proactive software quality assurance that I'll be describing, I want you to be aware, is a key basis of the recently released IEEE Standard 730 on software quality assurance. I was a member of the working group that came up with this standard, along with a number of other important contributors. But a lot of the standard is a big change from its predecessor, which was one of the first, if not the first, IEEE standard that pertained to software development. And the 2014 version is night and day different, and it has a lot of influence from the ideas that I'll be describing. So let me share with you what I'm presenting here is part of that I present and talks that I've given, And what I often do is start out by involving the participants to find out what they mean by some key terms. And so one of the big issues is the difference between system quality and software quality. And so I've listed here some of the things that people in class have said are what they think of when they say system quality and what they think of when they say software quality. And then summarize what it really comes down to. System quality includes both hardware and software as well as other things. Software quality tends to pertain only to the software itself, to the design and coding and documentation. And if there is hardware involved, the hardware is typically incidental. Now, in many of our projects, they are predominantly driven by software. Hardware is less used. But in some organizations, they make a big distinction between whether something is system or software, primarily based upon whether or not hardware is involved. Assurance, these were some of the definitions that people gave for that. And once again, system quality assurance is related to system integrity of hardware and software versus just software for software quality assurance. Now, organizations that have separate groups, for instance, working on system quality versus software quality, these distinctions do matter. For most purposes, certainly for the software quality assurance or the proactive software quality assurance, the differences really don't matter. Similarly, some people say, oh, well, the difference is between unit testing and system testing. I think that that's a difference that doesn't make a difference, but it sometimes reflects some kind of an organizational responsibility difference, and that's fine. If those things matter in your world, by all means, abide by them. But I'm not going to make a distinction between system and software quality. Think this issue of whether or not something includes hardware. Was it get decided whether or not hardware is part of the equation? Well, that's actually a design decision. Okay. And what has gone on before those decisions are made? Requirements. And if the design decisions are made after the requirements have been identified, and there was some erroneous presumption about whether something was system or software, or hardware and software, or software alone or hardware and software, okay, what are we going to have? We're going to have errors of requirements and possibly of design. And then if the decision changes subsequently, which it often does because people realize that maybe the hardware isn't such a big issue or so and so forth, well, those downstream decisions